Now, talking about the right to freedom, which includes from Article 19 to 22. First, we'll be talking about Article 19. What does Article 19 talk about? Article 19 itself guarantees you six rights. So, this Article 19, what all six rights are being granted to you by this Article 19? Right to freedom of speech and expression. So, you have the right to express your views, your opinions about anything, obviously keeping national interests in mind. Like, for example, if any government is not performing well or is not working up to your expectations, you have the right to criticize, you have the right to point out the loopholes, no matter who is in power. You have the right of expression and speech, to express your thoughts and to express your views. So that cannot be taken away, that freedom has been granted to you. Right to assemble peacefully without arms. So we see that most of the time there are many candle marches going on, protests going on. So you have been granted the right that you can protest. How will you show the government that you are not agreeing with certain policy or so? So you can have a peaceful protest, not creating any violence or destruction of property. That is prohibited, that is wrong to do, so that is prohibited. But peacefully you can assemble together, you can raise your voice, you can let the government know, let people know that you do not agree with certain norms, you want certain changes. And so you have been granted this right to assemble peacefully without arms and to protest or put up your point. So this right has also been granted to you. Then you have been given the right to form associations or unions or cooperative societies. So in any factory and all, so as to protect the interests of the laborers, of the merchants and all. So there are these societies or groups formed, unions and associations, where there'll be a representative who will act as a to bridge the gap between the owner and the laborers. You cannot go in bulk always and one by one individually going to the higher authorities, we have this problem, we have this problem. No. So you have these associations, you have the right to form these associations or unions, where a representative would go to the authority and let them know we want hike in wages, or we are being exploited in this way, we want certain changes in the norms. So we have the right to form these associations, unions, which act as a bridge between the higher authorities and the workers, and to present the the problems of the workers, laborers and all these people to the higher authorities. So we have been given these right to form associations, unions, to put up, to raise our voice, and to to make our voice reach out to the higher authorities. We have the right to form associations which will be legally accepted. Then we have also been granted the right to move freely throughout the territory of India. So in vacations, if you want to go to Goa, you want to go to Assam, you want to go to Maharashtra, any region, you have the right to move freely about in the territory of India. But unlike the times in the present COVID-19 times where there are restrictions imposed, so we see we have been given the right to move freely about in throughout the territory of India. You can go about, you're a citizen of India, you can travel, you have the ticket, you can go. But there could be restrictions imposed, though you are given fundamental rights, but certain situations can demand certain restrictions to be imposed on you. Like for the current times, we know that restriction between interstate was banned, we cannot travel, domestic flights have been shut down, there is no interstate movement happen. So such restrictions in certain times could give the power to the government to impose certain restrictions. Otherwise, we know that we have been given the right to move freely throughout the territory of India. Then we also have the right to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. So if we decide to buy this plot, buy this flat somewhere, buy this house, you can pay the amount, get the papers done, and you can live in that particular region. But there could be a exceptional if there is a disputed territory, like Kashmir had been so far, so where you were not allowed to just go and settle down in Kashmir. So if there is a disputed site, that could be an exception. Otherwise, you have the right to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. Then other right to freedom that you are guaranteed by this Article 19 is right to practice any profession or to carry any occupation, trade, business. So if you want to become a doctor, you have the choice. You want to become an engineer, actor, you can become an actor. Whatever profession, business, you want to have a cafe of your own, you can open that. Only restriction is in the form of certain restrictions could be you have to fulfill the requirements, like to become a doctor, You should have bio as a optional subject. You should clear the NEET exam or whatever entrance exam you have to clear. If you fulfill these requirements, you have the right to choose your own profession, whatever business. You fulfill the requirements, you go in the direction, you can opt for any profession or occupation. There is no compulsion. No, if your father is a doctor, you can only become doctor. No, your mother is a teacher, you will only become a teacher. No any restriction. It is your choice to follow any profession or occupation if you are fulfilling the requirements. So these are the right to freedom which Article 19 provides us. These 6 basic rights provided by Article 19 of the right to freedom. What are the limitations? In case of emergency, now this Article 19, all the 6 rights which were granted to you in case of emergency, they can be taken away. We already know in emergency situation like the current times, if suppose a curfew is imposed, restriction of movement is prohibited, you cannot move about in the city, you cannot move to another city, you cannot go and settle down in any part. So like the current times emergency situation, these Article 19, these rights could be suspended for the time being, not absolute. Keeping certain national interests and security of state in mind, restrictions could be imposed. Like in the case of Kashmir, we see keeping national interests in time, there are certain restrictions imposed. So in such cases, if there are riots happening in certain state, so keeping the security of the state in mind, certain restrictions could be imposed, curfew could be imposed. So in this form, restrictions, this power has been given to the government, keeping the state interest, national interest of the people in mind. Sometimes for some time your rights could be taken away, like these right to freedom. Then laws of parliament, there are certain legislations like preventive detention. We'll be studying about preventive detention. These could be imposed. ESMA, Essential Services Maintenance Act, they can also impose restrictions on the right to freedom. Like in the current times, we see that it was not allowed to move out, to go out, to move to interstate. But again, it was ensured to ensure the delivery of the essential services. So this ESMA ensured that despite that there are restrictions, you are provided with the essential services and the commodities. So we see that under certain situations, your these right to freedom could be taken away for some time. So Article 19 of right to freedom talks about this, guaranteeing you 6 rights. Talking about Article 20, it provides protection in respect of conviction for offences. So if you have committed some offence, still what all rights you can avail, that is guaranteed by Article 20. Let's see what rights you are being given by this Article 20. Against greater penalty than what is prescribed under the law is prohibited. That is to say, if you have committed a crime, say if you have committed a theft or robbery, so whatever punishment has been set up, given in the law book, you will be given that punishment only. It is not that you'll be given a greater penalty. If you have just committed a robbery, you'll be sentenced to death. No. If it says, okay, you'll be punished for say 3 years of imprisonment and this amount of fine, so only that punishment penalty would be imposed on you. Greater than that cannot be imposed on you. There is a prescribed given in the law book which will decide, okay, this is the penalty that can be given and not greater than that. Not that somebody out of misusing his power can force you, can book you on crime of theft or robbery and then give you the capital punishment of executing you. No, that cannot be done. So this right has been providing protection to the people, even those who are convicted. If you have committed the crime, whatever the crime is, accordingly whatever the prescribed punishment is, that will only be given to you. Okay. For a crime like robbery, you will not be given the punishment of that of the crime of murder. No, they are two different crimes. They have two different kinds of punishments set for them. Then another kind of protection is no one can be punished or prosecuted for the same offense twice. That is to say, if you have committed robbery, then you will be given the punishment for it, but you cannot be given for that theft only. You will not be given punishment 2 times. Once you have served the punishment, okay, it is done. Your crime has been compensated by the punishment that you have served. You won't be punished again for that. But this does not mean that if you do commit the crime again, like if you again go and commit this theft or robbery, that you will not be punished again. No. If you again commit the robbery, you will be again punished for the other robbery that you have done. So for each crime, whatever the punishment is, you will have to go through it. You will not be punished twice for the same crime, but if you again commit that crime or another, you will obviously be punished for that again. Then there is this: a person cannot be compelled to be a witness in the case where he himself is accused of the offense. So if you have committed some crime, you cannot be forced that you have to act as a witness against yourself only. You cannot be forced to do that, and you will not be counted as a witness. There has to be another person who will stand as a witness. You cannot be compelled to stand as a witness against yourself. Okay, so in no situation you can be forced to do that. So this is how protection is provided even to the culprits, those who have been convicted of some crime. These are the rights that they are being granted to them by the Article 20. Talking about Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty. So under Article 21, a person, he cannot be deprived of his life and liberty except in accordance with the law. So that right ensures that you have the right to live with liberty. You cannot be executed just like that. Nobody can come and kill you just like, no, it is not allowed. The state cannot give you punishment just like that without any crime, no, except in accordance with law. So everyone has to ensure that you live a sound life, safe life, full of security. But if you have committed some crime by which you have been granted this execution orders or capital punishment, then you will have to suffer. So only in accordance with law. If the law could only be the exception in case you have been asked to be deprived of your life. If you have been given the statement of that you'll be hanged till death if you have committed such crime, like the Nirbhaya rape case, if you are aware of, the convicts were given the punishment of being hanged till death. That is the exception. That is the only case when the state can take away your right to life. Otherwise, we all have the right to live and nobody can take our life unless there is a law or a punishment we have been given by which we have to die. Is it clear? Then Article 22. Article 22 provides protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. So if you are being arrested on certain crimes, for certain crimes you are being detained, still you have certain rights that you can avail. Everyone should be aware of these rights which are being granted to you by your constitution. Article 22 gives the rights, these rights to the citizens. There are two kinds of circumstances, two different kinds of arrest or detention that might happen, and in that case these are the rights that you can avail. In ordinary circumstances, in case a person has been arrested for some ordinary crime, that or there's a warrant issued against you and you have been arrested. So what are the rights that you can avail? First, the person would come to arrest you, he has to inform you of your offense. He has to tell you on what grounds you are being arrested. You have the right to know, why am I being arrested? Then to be presented before the magistrate within 24 hours from the time of arrest. After you have been arrested, within 24 hours you have to be presented before the magistrate. If you are not being presented before the magistrate within 24 hours, you have to be released. You cannot be kept over that. You have to be presented before the magistrate within the 24 hours of your arrest. Then you have the right to consult a lawyer and prepare for defense. No matter what the crime is, you have been informed, you have the right to consult your own lawyer, call him for your protection, to bail you out, to protect you, to look for the legal course, whatever you are being given these rights. So in case of an ordinary circumstances that you are being arrested for certain reason, you have the right to know on what grounds you are being arrested, for what offense you are being arrested. Within 24 hours you have to be presented before the magistrate, and third, you have the right to consult a lawyer. So these are the rights which are given under ordinary circumstances by Article 22. The other situation is preventive detention. What happens in the case of preventive detention? If a person is being detained or kept in custody for a period of 3 months without trial, this is preventive detention. When a person is being detained for 3 months, and that too without a trial. So in preventive detention, a person can be arrested or detained for 3 months without a trial, and this is done in no ordinary circumstances. This is done only when keeping national interests in mind or national security in mind, in case of very highly suspicious person or activity is done, in those cases this preventive detention is applied, where a person is kept in custody for 3 months without even being given a chance of trial. But again, even this person has these rights. Now, if he is being detained under preventive detention, it does not mean that the person stands accused. There is no surety, okay, you have done this. No, this is not proven. It's just a precautionary measure. State feels that person needs to be detained, otherwise he can commit certain crime. It can be done, against terrorists. If this person is a suspect, there is a lot of evidence that police intelligence has that this person is a potential threat to the society, to the people, to the state. So he can be detained under preventive detention. But again, he stands accused. It is just for precautionary measure. He is just it doesn't mean that he's accused, it's just thought that he could be a potential threat. So as a precautionary measure, he is detained. It does not imply that he has been accused and he is a culprit. It is only as a precautionary measure. Then even in this case, person can be detained for a time period of 3 months, in which duration the intelligence has to find out the evidences, prove it that he is accused and so on. But detention beyond 3 months, it can only be extended by an advisory board. So there is an advisory board which will decide if this duration can be extended beyond 3 months or not, and it comprises of judges of the High Court. Then the detainee, the person who has been detained, he has to be informed about the grounds of detention. Of course, now the person you are detaining for 3 months, not even giving a chance for trial, you have to inform him why you are being done, on what suspicions you are being detained as precautionary measure. And he is given the right to make representation, that is to call for a lawyer to defend himself. So his rights are protected. You can call a lawyer, you can follow the procedure, release yourself of the detain. But the state on its part, if it has further enough suspicions on someone, it can detain for 3 months and follow the legal course, looking for evidences and so on. So if a person is being detained for preventive detention, what is preventive detention? A person kept in custody for a period of 3 months without trial. 3 months without trial. Then there is this RTI, right to information. Right to information is part of this only right to freedom. It is included in Article 19, Part 1 of the Constitution. Remember Article 19, which guarantees you 6 freedom. So in that only a Part 1 was included, which gives this right to information. This is an implied fundamental right. Now we know that by right to freedom, we have been given the right to freedom of expression and speech, that we can express our opinions and we can criticize the government and we can hold our views about certain project, policy, this is right, this is not wrong. Now the question comes, if you are given this right to express something about the government policy or whatever, you should be aware of the facts, that this is the loophole. This thing is questionable. Why is happening this way? Why not? For that you need to be aware of the facts. So that is why this right to information was given, so that you can get to know about the facts. You can ask the government, I want the details, I want the information about this project. How much money is allocated? How many people are working? How many has been spent in what way? So this is right to information, gives you the right to collect information from government about any project, any policy that has been introduced from any public authority, and they will have to provide it to you. This right to information, it came into force on October 12, 2005. It is an implied fundamental right, so that you can use your right to freedom of speech and expression. You have the right to collect, gather information and all the facts. This act gives the citizens of India, you have the right to, seek and receive information from the government. You can ask the government or any public authority whatever information you want about any particular project or thing that you want to know about any government project and all. You can ask them certain questions. Why is this happening? How is this happening? You can take copies. They have to provide you an answer with copies, documents, that this is how we are spending money, this is how what we are planning, this is what we are. So all the details of any project that is happening, you can ask for it, because government also launches many projects. It's not possible for every person to know what are the details. So if you are interested, you want to know about particular how is this thing being done, you file an RTI, right to information, and you will be given the details by the government itself. You can inspect the documents, you can take sample of materials. Like for example, if you are bothered about this PM fund cares, you can file an RTI. I want to know how this fund is being used by the government. So the government will provide you with all the authentic details, that this is the amount we have got, this is being spent on that, this is being spent on that, with all the receipts and documents. So you can always question any government introduced policy or anything. You have the right to information. You file an application under RTI with this PIOs and APIOs, public information officers or the assistant public information officers. You tell them, I want to know the details. They will process your application, and then they will be liable to answer you, to provide with the documents and to answer your query. So this way you can question all the policies of the government, all the things that are happening. So you have this right to information as well. Then again, another right granted to you under this related to right to freedom was right to privacy, which has been declared on August 24, 2017. The Supreme Court declared that this right to privacy is a fundamental right. Though it does not need to have been a separate fundamental right. No, it is going to be a part of right to freedom only, where your privacy will be respected. You have this right to privacy as a fundamental right, and it's just derived from articles 14, 19, 21. So they are a part of this only. No separate fundamental, it is not a separate fundamental right, but it is a part of the fundamental rights only. It is also like an implied fundamental right, where a person has the right to make the choices that he makes. You have the right to privacy, that you can live in your home the way you want. You can wear anything, you can eat anything, you can get up at any time, sleep at any time. Unless you are doing any illegal activity, the state is not going to interfere in your personal life. That is your personal choice you make. You have this right to privacy. You will not be told by the government that you are going to wear this, you are going to eat like this is how. In your home, in your private place, you are going to have your own personal life, and these are the personal choices that you make. We do not have the right, okay, all the citizens are supposed to wear these clothes or that. We know there are certain rules. If you go to school, you have a school uniform. If you go to certain profession, this is the rules you have to follow. But besides that, where there are no rules, you have the choice to make your own personal choices. The state will not interfere. You have your own personal space at home, whatever kind of relation you have with your other people, family members, the way you live, the routine that you have, the religious faith you believe, the practices that you indulge in, as long as they are not illegal, they are acceptable, and the state cannot interfere. Anyone cannot interfere in your personal life. So that is what right to privacy ensures. It is not an absolute right. Now there are certain restrictions. If the state finds any particular person or family suspicious, then it can keep a tap on their activities. In that case, it cannot be said that okay, you cannot intervene in my privacy. If it can cause any harm to any individual, to society, then the state has the right to put restrictions on it. So otherwise, you have the right to privacy, make your own choices, professional choices, personal choices you indulge in. But if it is not illegal, then you can carry on with it. But if there is a suspicion, if there is some illegal activity, the state is going to interfere, can tap your calls, can keep a watch on you, and so on. Then your right to privacy could be slightly restricted. Certain limitations could be put on you. Now what does privacy include? Now there are certain specifications included, what personal choices, what things are considered part of your privacy. Not that you call a friend of yours at home and then hit him violently and then say that it is happening in my house only, it is private matter, state can or anyone cannot interfere. No, you cannot do anything illegal, harm anyone or any such wrong thing. But there are certain things that you have been given the freedom as a part of your personal choices to keep it private, and you have the right to privacy for, like for example, for personal intimacies, family life, marriage. So marriage, you could be arranged marriage, love marriage, a big affair, small affair, however thing it is happening, you decide on your own. The state will not decide that you are going to marry this person or that person in this way or that way. No such restriction is there. Then procreation, home, sexual orientation, a boy can choose a boy as his partner, or if his sexual preferences are different, he can choose whatever. If there are these homosexuals, they can make their own choices. A boy can have a girl as a partner or a boy can have boy as a partner. So these are their personal choices. The state no more interferes in that. As long as you are not doing anything illegal, it is all fine. A right to be left alone. Then you have this individual autonomy to make your own choices, governing a way of life, the way of life you're living, whatever you do, get up in the morning, you do yoga, meditation, running, jogging, whatever you eat for your breakfast, you eat breakfast, you do not eat breakfast, whatever you wear, you do not wear, sleeping timings, your choices, books you buy, clothes you buy, wherever you go, these are all your personal choices, and the state is not going to interfere in your way of life. Recognizes plurality and diversity of a culture, whatever culture tradition you follow, as per to that, whatever things you do, as long as they are not illegal or harming anyone, they are your private issues, and the state or government is not going to interfere. So this is how the right to privacy is being granted to you.